Welcome to the Aiki Dojo Podcast. I am David Ito, Chief Instructor of the Aikido Center of Los Angeles. And with me is...
Ken Watanabe.
And Bill D'Angelo.
I actually have a quick question. That line is not centered on that thing. Is that good or bad? Like the two screens, like that center line is not
you gotta move it over
right where like that point is.
Do you want me to?
I don't know. Like, do you guys care about that?
You want to slide it over to the point is on the point?
I don't know if like I noticed it, so I don't know. Probably like you guys
No, a
noticed
little
it
bit
too.
more to your left.
Like depending on your eye, you'd be like, no, it's not right. No, it's not right. No, it's not right. When you're just a normal dude, you're like, yeah, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like your level of quality, if it's too high, you're like, I'm never satisfied.
So you're talking about precision.
I'm talking about precision. Like the more you know, the more you realize, oh, like things are not right around here. I guess, like if the more you know about Aikido, the more you realize that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Then you become this person that's like, like Daredevil. He has these heightened senses, so he sees, smells. Can you imagine being like Daredevil? You could smell everything. You have to like focus that out and be like, okay.
Well, but I mean, like if you think about Aikido, is precision necessary?
I would say in all martial arts, precision is kind of necessary if you want to, depending on, I guess if you're a high-level practitioner, then precision is necessary. If you're just a brawler, you just pick up a pipe and you just beat them on the head and, okay, dead, you know.
Well, but I mean, what is Aikido supposed to be? It's supposed to be more sophisticated, right? So you want to make it to where everything is more precise.
Everything I think of when both of you are speaking is it Mike Tyson who says everyone has a plan until they get hit in the face?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's what I think, about precision is like, okay, maybe you get it off on the first strike and you're okay, but if you get hit in the face or hit somewhere else, does that affect, whether you're going for precision or just survival?
No, but the thing is that you have to practice your movement to a certain level of perfection.
Right.
Like Free Sensei said something like your mastery of the technique only translates to 60% on the street.
Yeah.
So if you're 60% in the dojo, you're 60% of 60%.
Right. You're down. You're getting knocked down to less effectiveness pretty quick. So if as Free Sensei said is relatively true, that means if you're at 100%, let's say you're perfect, no one's perfect, you'd be at 60. I'm just thinking in terms of like levels, like 60% of 60 is actually like I think 40. So you end up going from 100 to 40.
Right. And so at a certain point, you should have just not trained at all. Because
what do you mean by that?
Because the ignorance of just hauling off and clocking someone in the face, if you train a little bit, you may not have that anymore. And so you go, it's supposed to be like this, or you overthink it.
Yeah.
So I have a question for both of you. I'm talking about this like 100 to 60, from 60 to 60, that I don't know whether I heard it in the school itself or I've read it, that in a lot of martial arts movements, when you learn them big, because when you're in the middle of it, you'll shrink it.
I believe so.
You think so?
Yeah, when you're stressed, the movements become smaller.
Compressed.
Yeah. But the big movement is to learn how to generate movement and power.
Yeah.
So eventually that circle will get smaller and smaller and smaller. I mean, a big circle is still in the technique. It's just someplace it's not
Inside
visible.
But do you learn it? But is that a stated way to do something? Stated way to teach it or learn it?
To make a big movement?
Yeah, no, like you say we learn. What he's saying is you learn it in a big way, so that you can shrink it down into a small way.
Oh, I think that's not what I said. Maybe I said that, but that's not it. What I meant was, I thought I've read or heard that you learn the technique big because when you're under duress, your body will unconsciously shrink the size of the movement. Not that you actually shrink it.
Like,
I mean, I'm not wedded to this. I'm just curious what you...
I mean, like in a sword cut, the cut is still big. When it gets faster, you can't abbreviate it. It still has to be a big arc.
Yeah.
So you have to train yourself not to like make a small movement when you're actually going hard and fast. It's actually a big movement still, but it's just you just increase the speed and power of the sword.
Because the thing is that it's about efficiency,
Okay.
right? And so if you learn it big, you might not be able to make it small. If you learn it small, you may not be able to make it big. But you're trying to make your movement efficient. So if it's efficient, it can go big or small based on the situation.
Right.
Right. So like if you think about like Tenkan, you try to make it big and verbose, but then the person attacks you in a close quarters way, you won't be able to abbreviate it. I don't think unless you already have the skill to shrink, expand, or contract
To adjust it.
Right, because maybe that's the better way to say it. It's like you must have the skill to expand or contract the movement or the technique based on the situation.
Yeah, I mean, what I heard is it's easy to make the movement smaller because it's easier, but it's hard to go from a small movement to a big movement. So you always start with a big movement because it's easier to go smaller. It's just like
No, but he's not saying big movement. He's saying I don't want to put words in your mouth, but we're talking about making the technique large.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I'm not wedded to this. This is something I thought I heard, and when
No,
you were talking about
debating it,
yeah,
we're trying to understand as we explain it, but we're not talking about making your movement big. We're talking about I think he's talking about making the movement itself in a big way, categorically it's large instead of it being categorically small. But what you're talking about is yes, you should have a very big first step. You should have a very big back step,
right?
In order to be able to shrink it later on. But I think he's asking about
the hand movements and things like that. Or
he's not talking about the actual movement. He's talking about the bigness or the smallness of the concept of the movement.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying, Sensei. Or I'm curious about.
What he's talking about is that making the movement have 300 steps instead of making the movement have 100 steps.
Oh, you mean okay.
But I mean
I see.
that brings up the really good point that I don't think martial arts is like that. Right?
Okay.
We don't add or put in steps just to put in steps.
Yeah.
You have the certain steps, and the certain steps are done a certain way, and based on your ability, you can expand or contract those steps.
Like add more steps.
No, make it longer or shorter.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't, like a sword cut, you wouldn't add in another step into the sword cut just to make it have more steps. It has the same. All techniques have the same number of steps. They just become more efficient in their execution, so they look like the step is not there.
Oh, okay, that's what you meant.
Yeah.
Is that what you meant?
I mean,
I think that's a pretty close approximation of it.
But I mean, in Greek or Roman, martial arts, if you call them martial arts, are the movements really codified and laid out step by step?
I mean, it's a really good question. I think the answer is that, I'm just thinking, for example, an arm drag to go and then go behind the person and do a suplex throw. I think just like any other martial art, there's the basic way to do it. And I think every martial arts trains some version of kata. They wouldn't call it that, but I think that if you look, there's a lot of great sculptures out there showing wrestlers, and academicians that study Roman and Greek wrestling. They look at a lot of these statues to derive what the techniques are. So clearly, I think if you look at the representation in art and literature, that whether it's pankration or wrestling, there are definitely specific techniques that are observable and obvious to the people who studied it.
Can we? You look at a painting or a sculpture, can we use that as canon? Because you think about this idea, if you look at Japanese, paintings, woodblock prints or not,
stylized.
They're cutting a go table with one cut. They're fighting a demon. So that's the thing is are these things, because the artist who made that representation may not have been a practitioner.
Right.
So they put the hand here when it was clearly up there.
Right.
And then the person is the person holding the throw for hours and days upon end while the person sculpts it out.
So one thing that I think would go towards, obviously what you're saying is there's poetic license. Something's going to look better a certain way the image is composed rather than it being technically accurate. What I would say is that at least in the smaller cities in ancient Greece, not Rome, there was a very specific public culture about martial arts. And people, all male citizens, were it wasn't like compulsory, but most of them did practice exercise and martial arts because they were citizen armies. So I think what I would say to that is, not knowing the specific context of the piece of art, is that if you have a group of people that have a basic competency in doing something, they probably would be able to recognize what's going on in their depiction. But I agree with you. I'm sure there are many cases where, poetic license, so to speak, takes over. But I think that you're talking about a very different kind of community, because like, if you look at let's say ancient Athens or ancient Sparta, it's like 50,000 people. And then there's like 18,000 of male age, and they're all going to the palestra. They're all working out in the morning. So everyone has a certain level of shared competency, mainly because they had to be soldiers.
Well, but I mean, they can have the shared competency, but some people just aren't talented.
Yeah.
Right? Like this person, you go, oh no, that's just the way it is. Like there was this one teacher who used to come to our school that we did this one arm lock, and then he said, oh no, you're doing it all wrong.
Interesting.
And I went, oh, okay. And then the next day he brought back this photo of O-sensei with the same position.
Yeah.
So see how O-sensei's doing it like this? And in my mind, I was like, how do you know O-sensei's doing the same lock as we're doing?
Right. Well, wasn't that a big issue wasn't there a book of O-sensei's techniques from like the 40s that they were stills?
Yeah, it's called Budo no Renshi.
Yeah, and I think, wasn't it Saito who did the explanations?
I don't know. He did. O-sensei did the explanations. Several podcasts ago, I interviewed Glenn Yoshida, and he talked ad nauseum about it. But I mean, essentially, O-sensei saw the girl doing the illustrations, and the senior students would come and critique her and say, "Oh no, the hand here, foot there," and then O-sensei himself would come there and say, "No, make your foot, make the hand,"
right?
And he would help them with the descriptions.
But I think whether you were talking about sculpture, painting, or even photos, they're static, right? They're catching something in a moment that might be transitional. Maybe it's for the depiction, it's being emphasized, but I think there's certain limitations to static, medium versus video.
And even more so if it's art, a painting, or a sculpture.
From a long time ago.
That the person has to remember, no, the hands are clearly gripping this thing.
So do you think that the popularization of video on the internet has made it easier for people to compare and contrast what's good and bad technique?
Yeah, and then because the thing is that the martial arts is not transmitted orally; it's transmitted physically.
Right.
Experientially.
You have to feel it.
You have to feel it, and that's why the teacher would not throw a certain student that they didn't trust.
Right.
So that the student could never feel the technique, because if they can feel the technique,
they could
reproduce it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for certain students, not taking the teacher's ukemi is a death sentence.
Because you never learn it.
You'll never truly learn it 100%. Wouldn't you say?
I would say, yeah. Yeah, because I took Sensei ukemi all the time.
Yeah, you were the go-to uke.
So I learned the technique very, very well. Just during practice, I would think I should be thrown right now, but then they wouldn't throw me. Then right then, boom, the throw wouldn't work. So I was either very easy to throw or very hard to throw, depending on how you caught my timing. Yeah.
But then for me, I very rarely took Sensei ukemi. I only took Sensei ukemi when he was upset. He was mad. So if Ken wasn't there and someone bombed the ukemi, another person bombed the ukemi, he would just go, "David!"
Yeah.
And then I would come up and take the ukemi.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think with Furu Sensei, less than 10 times that I took his ukemi.
I would say I'm probably less than 50, less than 100. I mean, I might be on all those magazine covers of him throwing me, but I mean, a lot of those ones he knocked me out cold. Right? So
it was scary taking his ukemi.
So Ken, when you were starting to get thrown, because I mean, you read these stories, right, about O-sensei and the Hell Dojo and how people say like you'd attack him and you wouldn't actually know what the throw was that you got thrown by, but you'd feel it. Did that happen to you quite a bit with Furu Sensei, that when you'd attack and you wouldn't necessarily be able to intellectually understand what you just went through?
In the beginning, you're like trying to follow the movement, but as a beginner, like it's really, really hard to follow the movement. Then, eventually you get familiarized with a technique. Afterwards, it's kind of easy. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is worry about catching the timing and protecting yourself so you don't get a fist in the face or like a slap or something like that. Because if you're out of position,
you're
like you instinctively knew that you were in danger. So the way I moved was I would always be in the safe spot. The only thing that Sensei could do to me was throw me.
Right.
Yeah, and a couple of times he would like, I could tell just by the way he's throwing me, oh, this guy's mad.
Yeah.
So a lot of times if he like tried to clothesline me, I would just back bend and just fall down, you know?
So if what both of you are saying is true is to like really transmit the art to your whole school, should you rotate out of the most experienced ukes occasionally so people can feel it?
It's hard to say because in the old days, there was a lot of fear, a lot of mistrust. This person will steal your art and kill you, or this person will steal you. And it turned out that he's part of this other school, and then now the other school can dojo yabure you and attack you and then destroy your school. So there's a whole lot of trust, you know. And so when you know someone like Furuya Sensei throws you, you can feel the technique, but also you become very good at moving with the teacher. So like there's times where Sensei probably threw you and the rest of the class was like, what throw was that? And you're like, oh, I know what the throw was. But there's lots of times where Sensei would do the technique one time.
Yeah. Right.
And then if you weren't paying attention, you would sit down and he'd be like, okay, go. And you're like,
I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that demonstrates your level.
So did you think that Furuya Sensei employed that specifically as a teaching tool, or was it just more an emotional thing?
Who knows?
Yeah.
I think it was just being upset in the moment that he would do that, but also you had to catch up.
You had to catch up. You had to be on the ball.
Because there's lots of times I'll do the technique, and then the person that was taking my ukemi, I'll look over, and they'll be like, I don't know what happened.
I mean, this is kind of off topic, but it's related to what you're saying. I mean, I just started teaching at UCI this fall, and I finished my third class last Thursday. And UCI records all the professors' lectures, video and audio. And I had one student who came to me, I guess, because I'm new, I didn't set the policy correct. And they're like, is it okay for us to review the video? And I'm like, well, of course it's okay to review. But it's interesting you say, like, if you have the access to, let's say we recorded every class in Aikido, people might watch it over and over and over and over again versus trying to develop that inner skill.
99% of the people that watch that class not going to get nothing from it.
Really?
Yeah. There's 1% that will watch it really assiduously.
Mm-hmm.
That 1% will also watch it again and again and rewind it again and again and again. That
Trying
1%.
To catch the sophistication.
The rest of the people are just going like, oh man, oh, right. So if you're a competent level Aikidoist, you can learn from a video. But if you're not a competent level Aikidoist,
can't do it.
No. It's not that you can't.
Difficult.
It's very difficult because your eye is not attuned. And then can you rewind it? You rewind it, you go, how do they do that throw? Oh. And then you're watching it and your eye is not attuned to it. But so like
and then you're talking about like if you're by yourself trying to learn Aikido.
Oh
like,
yeah. Your hand is in the air going up and down. Like you have no idea what you're
like I think like Sensei designed Aikidos, you need to be in a group. You can't learn it off on your own in the corner in your own little world. Like you need to work with somebody to actually catch on to the technique. I think he did that on purpose. You don't go in your own little world.
Maybe that's the way. And that's the thing is that like Ken took Sensei's ukemi a lot. I took his ukemi very little.
Right.
We have similar Aikido but different. Right. He has a forward throwing power that I just don't have in my movements. But then I have like this footwork that Furuya Sensei and Ken don't really have. But it's like you're lucky if you have some level of talent that you can use to get that movement.
Yeah.
But you have to be Kuni Sensei, my calligraphy teacher, said the ultimate cheat is to have a teacher. Right? And so Ken is very lucky to have felt what the throw is supposed to feel like.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
Thousands and thousands of times.
Yeah, like in the West, they want to know what the teacher did. In the East, they want to know what it felt like.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so it's different today that we look at these techniques on the internet and we go, oh my God, so fake. Aikido's fake. And you look at it and you just poo-poo them. But if you take a step back, you think, wow, how did that guy stay connected? How did he not fall and break his neck? And you really start to really try to understand the techniques. That's true mastery. No matter what art you have, I might look at a BJJ or judo and go, huh,
Interesting.
how did that come about? You know, not. But if you just judge, it's fake, that's wrong, that's this, that's that, you're not going to learn, because there's some very basic truths of movement that are similar in all martial arts.
Right.
Yeah.
I watched this podcast. I don't think I sent it to you. It was very short, and it was an interview of an older Russian wrestler who was, I guess, really famous in the 50s and 60s. And they tell a story that he used to teach single leg takedowns. And they said that whenever he taught it, he always started from the position of having the leg. And then he would just show the different throws or moves or locks off that position. So someone asked him one time, why don't you teach the entry or how to get the leg? And he says, well, if you look at the way I teach it, you'll see that there are these effective ways to throw someone once you have the single leg. And so you should develop as a student your own initiation and aggressiveness to get that technique. I don't want to have to teach you every piece of it. And I thought that was really interesting. I don't think that's the way it's done in Aikido.
Well, the thing is that's a 1%er.
Talking to 1%ers.
Yeah, the 1%er will figure it out.
Right.
He's talking about the teacher will, if you have a table, there's 4 legs. The teacher will show you 3 legs. You got to find the fourth leg on your own. And that's where the training comes in. You got to use your own effort, your own ingenuity, your own cleverness. Maybe, they say the student's supposed to steal the technique from the teacher.
Right.
The teacher's not going to give it up willingly. He'll show it. Then if you catch it, then you got it. You got to steal it from him. That's
both of you, it sounds
spirit.
like both of you are saying, for the student to develop the best learning style it's almost like it's a flash, right? You see the flash, it goes into your brain. You don't actually look at the flash. So it sounds like you're saying that you've got to develop this ability to see everything in the movement and reproduce it.
Well, yeah, you have to figure out a way to read.
Yeah.
Even if your way to read is not the way that Ken reads, my way is not the same way as Ken reads, you have a way to understand the common language so that when they show you the flash, you go, I got it.
Yeah.
Right.
No matter what your language is, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Some people, he got to feel the technique, right? I'm, I guess, really athletic. You have to use your skill to steal that movement.
Right.
There can't be I didn't get it, I need to see it again.
Yeah.
One is interesting the way that both of you have taught, and Furuya Sensei, is I think our school really emphasizes basics, high number of repetition of the basic techniques. Is that because that's the way it's always been taught, or does that type of learning give you the platform to go aha when you see the flash of lightning?
It's not the type of learning. It's what you learn.
Yeah, it's not the type of learning. It's just these basic techniques instill skills that you can use. There's a lot of techniques. I'm like, why are we doing this technique?
Yeah.
It has no application to any kind of self-defense.
Validity.
Yeah, validity. But then there's all these skills you learn from that you carry on into every other technique almost. All the techniques in Aikido are interrelated.
It's like a Lego piece.
It's like a Lego piece.
You could build upon it with that thing.
Exactly. Yeah, you build upon it.
So here's an interesting question. Can you get good at Aikido only learning Nagewaza?
No, you need Ikkyo, Nikkyo, Sankyo, Yonkyo.
Yeah.
Nagewaza is important. This is an
yeah.
important part. But Ikkyo, Nikkyo, Sankyo, Yonkyo, if you don't know Ikkyo, Nikkyo, Sankyo, Yonkyo, you will never be able to figure out the intricacies of Aikido.
And that then but that's the thing, is that people today, when you look on the internet, they're emphasizing Nagewaza because Nagewaza is cool, it's showy, and I don't know, sexy. And so if you're Tewaza, your ability to use your hands and move your body is not the same learning Ikkyo, Nikkyo, Sankyo, Yonkyo as it is learning Nagewaza or throws.
No, you need to, at least you got to be really good at Ikkyo.
That's the basic.
That's the basic. Then Nikkyo, Sankyo, Yonkyo build upon that,
But, and the Nagewaza is where you demonstrate your level. You go, wow, that person's Nagewaza is good. I see Nagewaza on the internet. I go, it's just throwing. They didn't catch the person's timing.
Yeah, there's no timing, no connection, no positioning.
Yeah.
And you go, yeah, like the uke just fell down for them.
You know, like the person will cut the shomanuchi or cut the yokomanuchi, and then the uke stops.
Yeah.
They stop, the throw's fake.
Yeah.
You cannot throw someone if they're not in motion.
Yeah.
They must be in motion for you to catch their timing. If they stop, that means it's fake.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to generate motion or perpetuate that motion.
Right. If you can't generate it or perpetuate it, the person stopped, that's them just taking break fall.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if you think that's the way Kotegaeshi works, is that person stops
And then you throw.
and then you throw a real person, you'll never get Kotegaeshi
No.
off. Right? And that's the thing is that Kotegaeshi, the backup when the Kotegaeshi doesn't work is a foot sweep. Because you're cranking it, they don't fall, you sweep their leg.
Right.
But if you're just hoping that you crank their arm and they take this fluffy break fall over you, that's movie stuff.
Right.
And even like a kotegaeshi, like it would be very hard to take a break fall off a kotegaeshi because it's designed to throw you to the floor so you hit your head.
Yes, flat back you, knock all the air out of you.
You know, and then it's over. You know,
In your
on the
experience, is
concrete?
it hard? Is it hard for students to understand that level?
Yeah, because we're not teaching it that way. We're teaching people to let them out, to roll, to step back and half backward roll. And then, but you have to realize that that's part of the training so that you can do the technique. And as you learn to catch their timing, you really just go boop, and then they fall down and it looks fake.
So that's really in a way like the apex of ukemi, right? Is that if the person does really, really good ukemi, then you can throw them either fast or hard or
Yeah.
legitimately.
The better the ukemi, the harder you can throw them.
right?
Because you don't have to worry about them hitting their head, hitting their back, you know, or messing up their shoulder, because you know that they know how to fall.
Right.
Right. And so, you know, like Kotegaeshi and Shihonage, you know what the number one jam is?
What?
Haven't you ever thrown someone down Kotegaeshi or Shihonage and then they slap you on the back?
Yeah.
Yeah, a normal person would just grab you.
Right. They're just letting you know that you're.
Well, they don't let you know. That's the natural, primal, fear-based thing, is that when you're throwing them down, they reach out and grab you.
Right.
And that's what would happen in the real world.
Yeah. If they can grab, if they can touch you, they can grab you.
Yeah. It's just like in you know, like in the military, when we're in the Boy Scouts, they say, if the person can see, if you can see the person, they can see you.
Yeah.
Right.
If you go, no, I can only see them. They can't see me. I'm well hidden in my own hidden
Technique.
space. No, that's your ego. You have to always think, if I can see them, they can see me. I might be apparent to them.
What is the different way that Aikido teaches that motion? Because I'm thinking like in like judo, it's you have to break their balance. We talk about breaking the balance in Aikido also. Is there something different than the way Aikido continues motion or creates motion?
Well, I mean, in judo, they break the person's balance mechanically.
Right.
But the higher level judo, they catch the timing and spacing.
Right.
And in Aikido, it's timing
Same
and
thing.
spacing.
Time and spacing.
You can't let a person get close enough to shoot on and get a single or double leg on you. If they can shoot in and take your leg, they can
Your
shoot in
position.
and punch you in the face.
Yeah.
They can shoot in and cut you down. You have to maintain a certain amount of spacing and body positioning to thwart their advancement.
Yeah, it's gonna be just enough to make them think that they have you, but your sense of spacing is so precise that you know that they think you're in attack range, but you know that they are not in attack range. Then you take advantage of that to defeat them.
Right. And then they overcommit to the attack
Yeah.
because they think they have the right spacing or the right timing.
And then they're vulnerable.
And then to attack, you must open yourself up to attack. You can't close yourself off and attack at the same time.
That's the
drawbridge must open in order for you to run out and to attack. While the drawbridge is open, you're also vulnerable.
Yeah, like that's what they say. Like the main opening in the martial art is when you attack. When you attack, you're completely open to their counterattack. So your attack's gotta be really, really well. It's gotta be
So is the
strong.
benefit for a first mover in a confrontation, is the benefit for the first mover a psychological benefit because you're the aggressor?
It's not a psychological benefit. You say you read the person correctly, and then you moved in and took your advantage. Right? Like you can't. When you're young, you think it's all speed, strength, and power. You think you're just overpowering people.
Okay.
But the thing is that later on you realize if you could see the proper opening, you can poke a hole and burst their bubble. And so you have to be able to read the person correctly. First of all, you have to say, is this person a weapon user, swordsman, knife, bow, staff, whatever it is? No. Okay. Based on how they stand, are they a boxer, striker, wrestler? Are they in a kyphotic position out hunched over? Oh, that person's a wrestler.
Yeah.
And then you read them, and then you wait for them to make the classical mistake of their martial art, and then you capitalize.
On body position, I know, like Ken, a lot of times when you teach, you emphasize the nage having very strong vertical posture. What you're talking about Ito Sensei? How does that vertical posture translate to being able to throw more efficiently or correctly?
I mean, that just comes from swordsmanship, like weapons work. The power generated to thrust somebody or cut someone down. If your posture is not well, if your posture is like off, then you won't be able to generate the power from your center and your legs. When your posture is off, it somehow unconsciously transfers to your upper body. Then you're conscious of your upper body. Then you use your upper body too much.
And then you muscle the technique.
And then you muscle the technique. Also, it's easier to get you off balance. So the way they generate power in Aikido is the way they generate power in spearmanship or swordsmanship. Through your
correct posture.
Correct posture, but correct posture means you can use your center to apply power or apply force or something.
But how is that different than a person if you were going to like a person who's a wrestler who's bent over in this kyphotic position? They don't generate the power in that same way.
No, like I don't. How do they generate power? Like just from just muscles, right?
Well, there's a grabbing and a pulling.
It's grabbing and pulling.
Yeah.
Whereas in Aikido, you don't grab and pull. You extend out. You don't pull in.
Well,
You're always
extending
out.
I know Farid Sensei spoke about this maybe in one of his articles before, but he was talking about the empty jacket in judo, and how at the very highest level, whether it's Aikido or judo, that the vertical posture gives you the most options. And I remember you tell that story about the empty jacket where you grab.
Judo, they use a kyphotic posture
sometimes.
As well. You're right. Like in judo, when you look at it, you think, gosh, their center of gravity is so high when they stand up that no wonder people are throwing them. But you've talked about this empty coat, empty jacket thing before.
Yeah. But I think it's just like Kano Sensei could just read timing the movement so well that when you push Kano Sensei, you don't feel any resistance. And I think Aikido is supposed to be like that. Like when you hit Aikido person, you don't feel any, like that's a non-fighting in Aikido. It doesn't mean you're not going to go down with them. It means that when they push you, you don't push back. You let the movement continue.
Right.
And then you use that movement.
And that's kind of the empty jacket is the person attempting to attack can't feel the nage. Like they can't feel them, who they are.
Well, yeah. You ever try to put on a jacket really quickly? It gets caught and withered up, and you're like trying to get your arm over, and you're like, darn it, help me.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be that way, that it just, you have to fluff it in a certain way in order to get it on properly.
I mean, I always just thought the empty jacket thing seemed incredible. This idea that the person attacking you can never find you, in a sense. Like the empty jacket, so you go pull, you put. It's just like whether you pull, push, hit. The person doesn't feel like they're there.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's supposed to be.
Like like I tell students, it's like rock climbing. If you have a little bit of shelf, you can go like this and you have resistance. But if the wall is smooth, there's no way to like grab onto anything. Yeah. So that's the way you have to be when someone attacks you. Like they don't feel any resistance at all because they can use that against you. Push. If you lean on them, they'll push back on you. If you push on them, they'll push back, and they'll use your strength to make them stronger.
Here's this idea that people don't understand is that how deep does your politeness go? When someone leans against you, you push back to help them stand up.
Yes.
Out of politeness.
Yes.
When you grab their wrist, you don't grab strongly because it's impolite to grab someone strongly.
Right.
Right. And so using all these reactions and psychological ideas against people, you're never supposed to look someone in the eye. That's rude.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you look at someone and they avert their eyes because it's rude, you attack them in that one moment.
Okay.
When they grab your wrist, they grab in a very dainty, polite way. You break the grip and then throw them down. Right. So like you can use all these psychological reactionary ideas against people. You know, you talked about this idea that in the Vietnam and World War II, people did not want to shoot the advancing army.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I've read this.
Yeah.
Even today, they say like the average police officer or people, when you shoot is only 30% effective.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
So is it psychological? You trained shooting this gun, but you're only 30% effective with it.
Right. Well,
Right.
that's the internal resistance to wanting to hurt another human being.
So that's this idea that trying to understand how human beings work and the things that they do. So you have this idea of the empty jacket. A person who gives you no read is kind of scary.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you
can't
went to
predict
push
them.
and they didn't push back. You went to overwhelm them, and then it just turned on you and folded on you, and then that becomes very scary because now everything that you're taught to know as true doesn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that comes immediately to mind when you're describing that is when some person's like, I'm going to pressure test Aikido with boxing or whatever, and then you see the Aikidoist do this.
They go right into a boxing.
And I'm like, dude, you're not doing Aikido. You're pretending to be a boxer, but you're not a trained. Well, maybe for you it would be different, but most Aikidoists are not trained boxers. So why would you all of a sudden try to be a boxer when you're an Aikidoist?
You know what? There's a certain reason why that happens.
Why does that happen? I'm just curious because you see it all the time
In every martial art.
in every martial art. Absolutely.
Because
They all become boxers.
But think about this idea. It's about the mirroring gene.
Interesting. Like the learning gene.
Well, no, mirroring. So like when someone is skateboarding and they slide off the banister and hit themselves in the groin, we all go, oh,
Yeah.
That's the mirroring reflex or the mirroring gene. So when that person starts doing this thing, you unconsciously mirror, and some of it's social, psychological. You go like you put your hand on your chin, you go, Other people in the room start going, as well. So you start to do that not because you want to, it's because your mind accidentally mirrors that.
Sensei, what was that really famous Chinese martial arts movie from the 60s where I think it was a Japanese martial artist in China, and his superpower was however the person attacked him, he could immediately mirror that person's technique and find. It was a very famous movie where
I don't know, but I know that Captain America is supposed to have that
ability.
That ability. He could see a martial art and copy it.
Yeah. I'll find the link and send it to you because it was a really cool movie because the guy, I believe he was a Japanese samurai, and he could basically mirror and then find the weakness.
It's supposed to be like muscle morph is the name for it. It's
a specific thing
where you can see something and copy it physically. I think it's called muscle morph.
Wow.
But could you imagine the person that you're attacking automatically assumes your style?
And you're like, oh damn.
And you went, oh shoot. Right, that's why the worst opponent to face is yourself, because yourself knows all the tricks,
right,
all your weaknesses. So I mean, how many people out there are that competent, well trained, talented, where they can see it and they can do it?
Yeah, not very many.
It's I mean, you could maybe look like you're in the ballpark, but you're not going to be hitting any home runs.
I mean, like the people that assume a boxing stance because they mirror the other person, would that mean that they're not trained enough in their art to
rely on it?
To maintain that style? Like you just automatically go, because like everybody reverts back to fisticuffs,
Right. Yeah.
like playground style fighting, but the training is to get rid of that, that chaotic method of just going all out,
Yeah, like if you think about this idea of Bruce Lee bouncing on his toes,
right?
You wonder if prior to that time, how many people actually fought like that.
I heard people did not bounce on their toes.
Not in I know in boxing they did not, but maybe in other martial arts, because that bouncing creates rhythm, and then a really strong practitioner can read the rhythm.
Interesting.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
And they can
1, 2,
use
3,
that.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then they move in and attack, and right because you're bouncing in rhythm. Human beings are pattern animals. They do everything by pattern. You brush your teeth the exact same way every time. So if a person can read your rhythm, they try to shoot in.
Both of you probably know this much more than me, but I remember when Furia Sensei was alive, and we'd go to Alhambra or areas there for food. And one, he didn't like going on the freeway, but I remember the few times that I drove him to the same place, he's like, don't take the same route. Don't drive the same way every time. You don't want to create this expectation of your predictability.
Yeah, you're not supposed to take the same route there and then the same route back. You're supposed to take a different route. I mean, military people do that nowadays too, you know. Well, a good military person.
Well, but the thing is that if you were never supposed to let someone touch your pulse in the old days.
Because you could steal it.
No, you should steal it. If you could feel the rhythm of their pulse, supposedly, you could punch them in the heart and make them have a heart attack.
Wow.
But you'd have to know the exact moment. That's why, like, when they grab you, they would be reading your pulse. And then if they could get a sense of your timing, your rhythm, then they could go, boom, and punch you.
Yeah, that
and
makes sense.
people do sometimes die from strikes to the chest.
Very rarely.
But it can happen, though, right?
Well, it's because the thing is, the interval is so tight. It'd have to be supposedly perfect.
Right.
But that's that thing, like the martial arts trains for that level if we started talking about precision.
Like that's the level of precision that maybe a karate person would go for. But that's a very, very high level practitioner.
And then they call that dim mak or death touch, where the amount of precision you would need is to slide a piece of paper under the door. That's how slight that tolerance is, that you punch someone in the chest at the exact right moment, which caused them to have a heart attack.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like you always talk about, like in the movies where two people cut in a duel, one person gets cut in half, and the other person's like 2 layers of kimono get cut through.
Yeah,
you know, that's the level of spacing that these swordsmen have. Or like, you know, the story about, there was a story where like a European person was shipwrecked in Japan, and then he was put in jail, and the Japanese didn't know what to do with him. So what they did was, this is a sensei story, is the guards would come out and put like, to scare him, they would put like an apple on their arm, and they would cut the apple without
hitting the skin.
And this was documented by, I think it was Portuguese or something, you know, and that's the level of precision that swordsmen had back then.
Right.
They could cut the apple off your arm without breaking the skin. And they tried to do that to intimidate him. I mean, I'm assuming he survived and got released because he wrote about it. You know, I was like, wow, that's nuts. These are like normal samurai. These weren't like masters. These were like regular swordsmen.
But outside of soldiers, like actual soldiers who are shooting and getting shot at, is that kind of expertise and precision just not as necessary in the martial arts? Because I think like of like MMA, which is like, I've been looking at this because I'm teaching finance, talking about how people change their behavior based on certain types of rewards. And like, I mean, I'm sure we all have watched UFC over the years, and how like it's transitioned more into striking and knockouts rather than 90-minute.
Well, it's because they give you fight of the night bonus.
Oh, is that
which
what it is?
Which is more than you made for the fight.
Wait, what's fight of the night bonus?
Fight of the night bonus is like $50,000. And
if you do a knockout.
If you got a really good knockout, they give you the fight of the night, and then it's a bonus of $50,000.
Oh shoot! So you'd rather do that than choke a guy out,
right? Because you were only going to make $50,000.
But I guess my question, Sensei, was...
Well, no, I understand your question. So you have to think that how you do anything is how you do everything.
Right.
So like when I bag my groceries, I bag them a certain way. So my kids were at the grocery store with me yesterday, and then I was telling them, no, we do fruits and vegetables first, and we do like this. We put dry goods, this, that. Cleaning supplies go here, and the very last thing is the chicken and the eggs.
Right.
And then they were like, why do you do it that way? Someone's bagging the groceries. I go, you don't know if they just smoked pot or something? Gonna smash my eggs, mess up my vegetables, but it's packed in a certain way that you can't help but be successful. So when they're packing it, they pack all the vegetables and fruits together. They packed all the dry goods together. But like, you're trying to set yourself up for success. And then, you know, my one of my kids was like, "That's crazy." And I go, "Yeah, I'm just that wired that way."
Right.
That I want it to be a certain way, so I set it up that way. So that attention to detail has nothing to do with being in the military or not military. Say I'm a normal person, right? And then I try to bag my groceries a specific way.
Yeah, you don't want someone to put the potato chips at the bottom, then put a 6-pack of Coke on top. Like, that's complete. But if logical.
But you could accidentally set it up for that.
Yeah, you
by
can.
How it comes down on the conveyor belt, and that person just smoked a whole bunch of crack before they bagged their groceries.
So let me ask you a question, which I do this too. When I put groceries on the conveyor belt, I do it like, for example, heavy and cold frozen vegetables at the first soda, something like really hard in the bottle, or something that can stand up. And at the very, very last, all like the deli stuff, like, you know, chips, snacks, light things.
It doesn't matter how you do it. It's that your mind has a method.
Yeah.
Right. You're saying that I don't want this pot smoker putting all this stuff, smashing all together. So I'll set it up in a way in which I hopefully will be more successful.
Yeah.
But like, you have to, I think that's the precision that you're trying to get in everything that you do. And mind you, it's really hard to do it every moment of every day. Right. Like, I saw this cartoon that said, you know, once you realize that you can't be mindful or have an enlightenment every day, you'll just go load the dishwasher. And you go, that's true, because every second of every day you can't be that on.
No.
Right.
But you try to be 40, 50, because the average person is only 10.
Yeah.
10%?
Like
10% mindful?
Yeah, like you try to do it when it counts. You don't do it when it doesn't count.
But the thing is that if you're a martial artist, you do it when it doesn't count.
Yeah, you do it all the time because you're training yourself, right?
Yeah.
You're training yourself to be like that all the time.
Because how you do anything is how you do everything.
Exactly. How you do everything is how you do you do anything is how you do everything.
You have the hundreds on the top of when you open up your wallet, all they see is hundreds. No, you flip it over, make sure all they see is ones.
Yeah.
So they don't look and go, oh, this guy's got a whole bunch of hundreds. Right? Like, it's part of your training to have that level of detail in as many things as you can do, which doesn't drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you look at my car, it's totally needs to be washed.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but it sits under a pine tree that just drops pine
Every
needles
day.
and pollen every day. So it's like, on a certain level, you're like, ugh.
Yeah, like you set yourself up, like you said, set yourself up for success. And that's what training is. Like, you train so when someone punches you, they fall down.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's kind of like the question that someone asked you right before this podcast about Tenouchi.
Yeah.
What was the question? I don't think I was there.
What is Tenouchi?
Yeah, it's like the grip of the sword. They call it Tenouchi. Uchi is inside, te is your hand.
Right.
So inside the hand, that's how they grip like the sword handle.
But how you grip dictates how you generate power.
Yeah, how you grip dictates how you generate power, or like how you can, I don't want to get all crazy, but how you put your key into the sword, whereas you're just holding it stiff, you know, or you're holding it too loose, falls out of your hand.
Yeah.
But if you hold it just right, they say you're supposed to hold the sword like you're holding an egg, not too hard, not too soft. Then you can begin to feel when you cross swords and you touch the other person's sword, you can begin to feel everything. You know, they're scared, they're balanced, they're stiff.
How
whatever.
does deception play into that?
Well, I mean, you can deceive someone by turning how you grip the sword.
Yeah.
So that they think you're going to generate or you're going to parry or something like that, only to switch it back at the very last second.
Yeah.
But I mean, generally, most people don't do it that way because that's a poor way to create deception, is by sword grip.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that.
But I mean, you would evade based on your footwork. You wouldn't try to evade using your sword. Because the thing is, the sword's a very crucial thing, and it's also very brittle. So if you hit the sword on the side or blade to blade, it could crack and break. And then when it cracks and breaks
You're in
against another swordsman, you're dead.
Right.
Yeah, there's no going to the ground. Yeah. But also, like, for, like, if I can about Tenouchi, it's like how you grab your opponent in Aikido. Just by how you grab your opponent, you can you can like see they're on balance, they're off balance, they're stiff. So you can get all kinds of information.
So one of the things I see on the internet a lot when you're talking about grip is you see people gripping like this.
With the finger
What's
out.
up with that?
I have no idea.
With the finger
But you
out?
see it all. I see
Yeah,
it all
they're-
over the
they're
place.
holding
They're
it, they
gripping
have the-
like this.
Yeah,
With the index finger open.
My personal theory is that a teacher from Japan came and said, "You grab the sword with these 3 fingers," and then like talked about it, and the people who didn't understand went in the back went, "All right, everybody, gotta have your finger out," which makes no sense
But
at
it's
all.
everywhere, right? I mean, I see it all the time.
Well, it's only in Aikido.
Right.
That's where it's
Right.
everywhere in Aikido. But in swordsmanship, Iaido, Kendo,
no.
you don't see that.
No.
I even think it's weird that some of these medieval swords, when you grab it, there's a place on
Finger
the
hook,
blade to
yeah.
hook with your finger.
Oh, like there's a little notch.
Yeah, well, not even
It's
a
like a
notch.
ring.
So, like, after the hilt, your hand comes up and grabs where the habaki would be in the
Yeah.
sword. But I
Yeah.
mean, that is done to generate power in a specific manner. So
Right.
when you see someone holding the sword that way, you go, they're going to do this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Interesting.
guys ever heard this story about? I don't want to say the name of the teacher, but it's very, very famous from the
Okay.
60s, and he used to go like this, and then
With his
with
fingers
his
full.
index fingers pointing, and that's probably where it came from. He called someone up for ukemi. They came up, and instead of grabbing their wrists, he grabbed their fingers, and he didn't know what to do. you know, like everyone just expects grab their wrist.
Right.
This person grabbed his fingers, and he's like,
Crap.
Well, that's this idea that you have to expect what you can't expect.
yeah.
So if you put 2 fingers out or finger out, they might just grab it.
If someone's sticking a finger out, you just grab it and you just break it.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah, you try to break anything you can grab, break, or cut off.
Yeah.
If you could, that's why in Japanese swordsmanship and fencing, you don't get that close because they can stomp your foot.
Right.
Yeah.
In the old days, they used to sweep in kendo.
Yeah.
They don't sweep anymore.
Yeah, I've seen some of those videos.
And
It's
that
pretty
person
crazy.
sweeps your leg. I mean, if you get your leg swept, you're lucky if you don't injure your knee or ankle or toes.
Yeah.
But you could have injured it, and then how long are you going to be out for?
Well, in Pankration, in like the Olympics, there were no rules. So one of the main injuries for Pancratianists were broken fingers because people would do the thing and they'd break the finger, break the thumb, fish hook, eye gouge, groin shot. None of this was illegal. And so, a lot of people that didn't want to get injured would do wrestling because they're like, I don't want to, end up crippled with none of my fingers working.
Yeah.
Well,
Especially back then.
What would MMA be like today if there were
No
quote
rules.
unquote no rules?
People would get really hurt.
You could eye gouge, you could break fingers, you could fish hook. If those things were legal, how many people would be taken to the ground?
A lot less.
A lot less, because you knew that you could take the person down, but they may gouge out your eyes, and then your career is essentially over.
Right.
So when you talk about, Aikido is not real, that's not real. What is real?
Yeah. What's real?
Right.
The person's going to scratch you in the eyes, fish hook you, grab your nose, try to rip off your ear, bite your ear. You can't be anywhere close to that.
Right.
So you have to think that then you're going to have to maintain your spacing.
Yeah.
And
that
then
was the first thing that came
And then
to
you're
my
going to have to
mind.
maintain your spacing, because maybe now, in addition to no rules, they could even have a knife
Right.
or a weapon. So then now you have to set yourself up for that. So when people are talking about, Aikido's so fake, it's not real, what is real?
Right.
If someone who takes you down, in a different style of martial arts and is on top of you, and you felt threatened, you could just
Poke their
gouge
eyes.
out their eyes.
Yeah, you would
Yeah.
gouge out their eyes.
Or, if you're sick, you just spit in their face. And I would rather be choked out than have someone spit
Oh my
in my
gosh,
mouth
so
or
gross.
something.
Or if you get that close and the person bites your ear,
I was
bites
gonna
your
say biting
finger.
is
Yeah.
I
And then
mean,
what if the
isn't that
guy's
how,
like
like-
unhygienic? Like I am not going to put my mouth on some dirty man.
So there was a UFC TV show where one of the practitioners, before he fought, he would eat all this garlic and stuff that would just come
Make
out
him
of your
smell.
pores, and then he wouldn't bathe.
They used to do that in judo. I heard they
Yeah.
used to not they used to just come in disgusting, and that would just to mess up your opponent's focus. Yeah, that's an old trick.
So I mean, you could do all these little weird things to people that their natural sense would go against their natural sensibilities.
Yeah.
right.
but that's martial arts, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when Tyson he bit Evander Holyfield's ear.
Yeah, but I mean, after a while, he would have won.
But I remember when that happened, people were so outraged. They're like, "Oh my God!"
This is prize fighting, and you want to vilify this person who's undefeated. But like, you get to this place, right, where what is real martial arts? Oh, well, you can't face this this style of martial art, that style of martial art. Well, you could. So if, let's say this guy comes in, he's going to fight me with. This actually happened when I was in high school. These two people are going to fight after school behind the Federated. Behind Federated, right by our house.
Well, that's how long ago it was.
Yeah. And one of the guys was like this heavy metal dude with long hair. So before they go fight, he like takes off his shoes. Right? And it's so funny because he didn't realize like that's where everyone goes drinking. So there's all these broken bottles.
Oh,
so as soon as he takes his shoes and starts fighting the guy, ow, 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 ow. And then the guy just jumps on and beats him up.
Yeah.
And I was like, why did he take off his shoes? Oh, he does karate? But I mean, you could just
Is that
look.
the reason why he took off his shoes?
It's because he does karate.
That is just. I'm sorry.
But I mean, these are high schoolers, right? But like, he took off his shoes, and then everyone's like, "Oh, he knows some stuff." And then as soon as he starts stepping on the glass,
he's wrecked.
We're all like, "Oh, that was not a good idea at all."
It's pretty funny.
But if you think about it, maybe that intimidation factor before kicked off your shoes. Ooh, this guy must know some stuff. But that's the thing is, if you're going to fight, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu person, you just sprinkle all this glass on the floor because they always take the bottom, and then they're going to get all messed up. If you go to fight an Aikido person, you just put oil and grease on your arms and neck. They can't do any. I mean, there's ways around the different styles, right? But you're hoping that you're ready for anything.
Yeah.
You know, that the person jumped out and took off their shoes, you go like, oh, you just smash a glass and put it right in front of you.
I mean, like, speaking of shoes, like, if I was a better martial artist, I wouldn't wear flip-flops. I would wear shoes all the time. But, I like to be comfortable. I'll wear, like, Birkenstocks, mules, like, slip-ons.
No, I just because my ankle's sprained right now. Yeah. I texted Mike the other day, and I go, taking the kids to school wearing flip-flops. I go, it's not going to matter anyway. If somebody jumps out, I can't get away from them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to fight them. My ankle's messed up.
But then, like, since you say, like, you should, like, once in a while, you should see what it feels like to do Aikido in shoes. Because you will be wearing shoes when you're out there, boots or whatever. And, if you get kicked in the face with some Red Wings, you don't have to kick that hard. You can do some damage. Steel-toe boots. Yeah.
Didn't first Doshu or second Doshu do a video where they were out in, like, a field?
Yeah.
Or like there's some.
They were wearing like clothes. They were wearing like suits,
Western clothes.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess the demonstration for something like that is just so people can go, oh yeah, like it totally works when you're wearing clothes, right?
Yeah, I guess but I mean, it's just the novelty to try to show something different. But like, we're talking about like training. We can't be like, all right, everybody, head in the bathroom, right? Ken, Bill, you're first. No, you can't do that. You got to stuff his head in the toilet.
Yeah,
right. I mean, it's like. It's not practical, so we're just trying to learn how to move, and then, like, as we talked about before, expand and contract. If you can slide in deep, you could probably slide in short.
Oh yeah.
But if you're only used to sliding in shortly, you're not going to be able to slide in deeply.
Yeah.
Right. So, but in the same token, if you're going to do a joint lock and your joint lock always has to be big, you might not be able to make it small.
Right. Or if you're in a confined space. Or something
so
like
I mean,
that.
like everything will have to be modified. But it's that when you're attacked, you automatically slip the disc of Aikido into your mind, and then your mind lays over Aikido over the event, and then hopefully modifies your movement so that you're able to negotiate different types of attacks, attackers, situations, and whatnot.
I mean, basically, for attacks, it's either front, side, or back, right?
Right, and then straight ahead or angle-wise over the top. There's not a lot of variation. Kempo Karate has like this wheel of attack. It's round. It's got all these different lines that they could go in. But yeah, essentially, it's either front, back, side to side, case of cut type cuts, penetrating things over the top. There's not really that many ways to be attacked.
No, So if you get out of the way, you get out of the way. If you fade back, you fade back. Like making them miss you is making them miss you. It's all timing and spacing.
But the misunderstanding of martial arts and movement today. So they think like, oh no, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu that's the most effective martial art. But if you think about this idea of combat, what did Stalin say? Artillery is king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. The farther you're away from your opponent and you could kill them, the better off you are, and the more likely you're going to win.
Yeah.
So that's just if you take that idea to martial arts, the closer you are, it doesn't necessitate that you're going to win.
No.
The closer you are, you're going to fall prey to the wrestler, the grappler, the judo person. So you have to maintain your spacing.
You want to be far away.
Yeah. So I mean,
with a sharp stick or something like that. You know?
Yeah. I mean, you have a broken bottle. How many martial arts can deal with that?
Yeah.
Right.
No.
How does Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, how does judo deal with a person with a broken bottle, just waiting to slash you across the neck or something?
And then whatever martial art you do, it's all timing and spacing.
All timing and spacing.
Well, one of the things I find really interesting when watching martial arts videos is there are those kata videos for high level judo people, and you see like when they do like weapons defense, a lot of it looks like Aikido. You've got Ikkyo, you've got Codification, you've got a lot of these.
Well, from judo because they share the same historical background.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're similar arts.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many ways to bend the elbow or to lock an elbow or bend the wrist.
I mean, what I always found like really interesting though was how like the core like self-defense applications of judo are very similar or were basically Aikido techniques, shared techniques. You don't hear about that too much now because it's almost all competition. But this sort of preserved core there's a lot shared, as you say.
Well, I mean, and that's the hard part is that as judo moves away from its base, will it cease to be a martial art?
Right.
Right. And like Shohei Ono, the famous gold medal judoist, he moved to Scotland.
Right. You sent me
and
that
is
text.
starting his own style of judo there.
Mm-hmm.
That he says that people are missing the spiritual applications of the art.
That's a pretty big thing to
That
leave.
sounds like Aikido, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And also to leave Japan when you're like one of the top judo guys ever, that's a huge thing.
But the thing about judo is that once you win a gold medal, and
that's as high as you can go.
Well, yeah, the only thing you can do is coach at the police department or the college level.
Right.
Right. Like, and then when you coach, you're making a PE teacher's wage, but I want a gold medal.
Right.
Yeah.
Shohei Ono goes to Scotland. He's a god.
Right.
Remember there's that famous story that Furuya Sensei told us about Tohei?
Oh, yeah.
Furuya Sensei's driving Koichi Tohei, and Koichi Tohei said, in Japan, I'm just a regular old Aikido teacher. But in America, I'm a god.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a moment like Sensei was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, he was like, I got to get out of here. But I mean, that's the thing is like Ono goes to Scotland, starts his own thing. No, he doesn't go to die. He goes to become a millionaire.
Yeah.
The highest he can go in Japan is be coaching the police department or Waseda University or something. How much do you think he makes doing that?
50 grand.
69,000.
Right.
Dude, he goes to Scotland every weekend. He's got a seminar. He's being paid a ton of money. And he's living in Scotland. Yeah. He can do gross hair out, get tattoos. He can do anything he wants.
I had a thought about that when you sent me that link and I read it. Do you think, I think he's fifth Dan right now. Do you think...
I don't know what Dan he is.
It doesn't matter. My question is, if you leave the homelands and you're not part of that system...
He's still part of the system. He's just not part of the Japanese system.
Right. But do you think that like his ability to get higher rank is going to be impacted? He doesn't care probably.
Dude, the guy has several gold medals.
Right.
He's uncontestable.
Right.
He's one of the greatest judoists of all time. But the thing is that he saw this opportunity. He's going to go do his own thing.
Yeah.
Right. But like, what is that thing? Is this, unstoppable judoka? What does it sound like? Sounds like Aikido.
Yeah. No, it does. Absolutely. That was kind of my point earlier about
the spiritual basis of Japanese martial arts. Sounds like Aikido. Today's topic was just chatting. Hopefully you liked it. Maybe you have some ideas or some comments you might want to include in this podcast. If you do, please put them in the comments and don't forget to like or subscribe. Thank you.